So this is one of my grafted jujubes. I don't remember if it's a Lee or Lang or what. I originally had like 7 grafted ones, and all of them eventually died, and I had them in different places. You know, lowlands, a little higher, like sandy areas, and this one hasn't grown that much, maybe 3 or 4 inches a year for like 10 years. It's probably about 8 foot, 7.5 foot tall. And when I did my moving my Moonglow pear the other day, I thought, you know, maybe when a lot of these plants go dormant that haven't really done well, maybe I should dig them up and try to move them to another area where they might be happier. So this is a seedling jujube. Looks like it got to maybe 25 feet at the top, and it always has a hard time when the frost hit, but it looks like it probably died down to about 5 foot, and it's got a new stem coming out right there. One issue I had with this is that it never bloomed at the same time of my grafted ones. You know, my grafted ones need pollinators, and this one is self-pollinating. But issue number 2 is that we always got a frost or freeze before the jujubes were ripe on this one. So this one is not quite as frost hardy as the other ones are. Well, I was out here the other day and my Lang was suckering from the roots. But now I see a little bit of growth above the graft. But obviously this guy is not done well. If that survives, I may just move it when it goes dormant again. I wonder if I should move it this year because it's done so horribly. But yet, these, that's root suckers. That's a real above the graft bud. Here's another one. I don't know if this was a honey jar or what this one was. All root suckers. The graft line's there. Hard, so most likely that one has died below the graft, and it just has the root suckers right there. I wonder if they will make good pollinators, or if they can produce fruit that's halfway decent, even if not good as like the grafted cultivars. I had either 1 or 2 more in this area, like over here and maybe one over there. And it's possible there could be a root sucker somewhere that I haven't noticed yet. I guess that's just greenbrier. And I believe I had a small 1 or 2 grafted ones somewhere in this area. This is like, you know, 20 feet, 25 feet away from where those other ones were. Looks like I got dewberries and black cherries and stuff growing here now. And I also had lined up with blueberries, and there could be a couple blueberry plants still alive in here. Let's look and see real fast. Yep, there's one. Not doing super well though. I probably planted, you know, 20 to 30 blueberries over the years in different areas, and I kind of planted them up higher because of the flood zone, but now people are telling me, you know, that I should put them in the wetter areas and maybe just do a slight mound with peat moss amendments and stuff. So I think I'm going to try that. And these guys never do well, so we might just rip these guys up and put them in our other area to try. I had some native blueberries here, little dwarf ones, you know, in this area, and they lasted 4 or 5 years, never really produced anything, never grew, and then they just disappeared. Probably 2 years ago, they just, you know, there's no sign of them left. But there is another, under this Meyer lemon tree is one, and I'm surprised it's alive because I I'm fertilizing it, and blueberries don't like a whole lot of fertilizer, so it's not dying from the fertilizer, but I think it's going to be time to rip it up and put it in another place that may actually do better. This is a pomegranate that has just kind of lingered on for years, and it hasn't done anything, and it looks bad all the time. And I know people grow pomegranates. Let's see if it still has the cultivar tag. Looks like it's falling apart, so purple something. Probably a more rare one. But this thing, you know, when it goes dormant again, if not sooner than that, you know, we might even pull it up this, you know, spring, summer, and try to find a place where it can be happy. This tire here basically has nothing but some weeds growing in it. Guess why? I had a hawthorn here. You know, I was experimenting with different Chinese hawthorns, Lavelle hawthorns, cherry haws, and several other types. And a lot of these, there was one right there, and there was one in front of this area here, in front of this raised bed that's like overgrown. They languished on, some of them for 4 or 5 years. Some of the more northern, I think the Lavelle hawthorn didn't last more than 2 years. It just wasn't happy. But some of these other ones, they might have did better. In more sun, they might have did better. In less wet soils and less densely rooted soils. There's roots everywhere here. I mean, look at the forest. You know, there's probably 100-plus-year-old oak tree right there. Probably, you know, 80, 100-year-old oak tree. Freaking everything, you know, 70-foot sweet gums, all kinds of stuff here that just may not have allowed the roots to grow, you know, penetrate through this dense root system. All of these tires, these 3 tires, also had stuff that tried to grow. Sometimes, like in that last one, had a fig there, I think, for 3 or 4 years. Instead of just letting it slowly wither away, I probably should have moved it. And that's the case in a lot of things that, you know, hindsight, and, you know, you may not always think about these things, but yeah, apple tree right here, somewhere in this area, was happy for a few years, and it may have just over flooded, you know, a season or a few seasons. The roots, you know, once it actually fell down, you know, after it produced, and it had like all these diseases and all, it had very shallow roots in it. So that tells me that it, you know, it couldn't penetrate very far in the root system for either because of densely rooted, you know, like there's a giant camphor tree. But I'm thinking that specific thing was probably wet feet. Here, I had a Nikita's Gift persimmon tree. It lasted probably 8 or 10 years. Grew a little bit, shrunk a little bit, shrunk until it went to nothing, and it just didn't come back one year. So I definitely wish that I would have thought, let me just move it. Let me move it when I storm it. Let me see if I can find a better place, more sun, you know, looser soil, maybe. Persimmons like wet, so I'm not going to say less wet, but individual plants have different requirements, obviously. And so I'm definitely thinking about moving some stuff before a lot of these sad plants just deteriorate so bad that they can't come back. And that's just something I want to talk about. You know, if you have a plant that's still alive, that's struggling, that is supposed to be for your area, for your zone and all, your soil type, and fertilizing just isn't making it happy, mulching's not making it happy, Less water's not making it happy. More watering's not making it happy. You know, compost. Dig it up. See if you have a different spot. Maybe find somebody else to give the plant to or trade to. You know, there's a lot of different types of soils. Even in my area, you know, 4 or 5 miles down the road, you know, we go from like acidic, wet muck, swamp muck, to like non-acidic sand that drains as fast as it, you know, the floods, as fast as the flood waters hit the ground, it just goes whoosh, you know. So in my area, peaches would be hard without some kind of sandy raised mound or something. They'll die in like the first flood, you know. I've just had that luck with them, peaches, and probably a lot of things like that. Peaches like a lot of water, but they like well and fast draining, you know, soil. They don't like wet feet. And that's probably similar with avocados, you know. And there's definitely like some controversy with like people in California where there's like these droughts and stuff going on, and avocados need so much water that, you know, some people are just ripping them out, you know, out of the ground and saying we're not going to do it anymore. It's not worth it. So yeah, I'm just talking about my thoughts about moving things. It's okay to move things. If you got the area to move it, move it. Try to make that plant happy. You know, don't keep spending money, and don't give up unless you've tried everything you can to grow the things that you want to do.